Not all triangles are right triangles. Let's consider the following triangle with sides A, B, and C, and angles alpha, beta, and gamma, but none of them is 90 degrees. Of course, here too, alpha, beta, and gamma add up to 180 degrees. In general, within a triangle, there are typically two theorems that are commonly used, namely the sine law and the cosine law. The sine law states that the following ratio is preserved in all triangles, a part of the sine of alpha. The sine of angle beta is equal to the ratio of B to C multiplied by the sine of angle gamma in a right triangle. In other words, the ratio between the side and the sine of the angle opposite it remains constant across all sides and angles. The next theorem is the cosine law. It states the following. C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times the product of A and B times the cosine of the angle between A and B, which is of course the angle opposite C, cosine gamma. Not for nothing, the cosine law is very reminiscent of the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem, truth be told, is a specific case of the cosine law. If we set an angle of 90 degrees, the cosine of 90 is 0. This leads to C squared equals A squared plus B squared. We will move on to an example, a general triangle. We have two sides, 10 and 7. An angle of 30 degrees, and we want to find the side x and the angle alpha. We need to determine the length of side x and the measure of angle alpha. Of course, if we find alpha, we can also determine the other angle, since the total sum of angles in a triangle is 180 degrees. In order to find x, we will start with the cosine law. X squared equal to the quantity obtained by squaring 10 and adding the square of 7, then subtracting twice the product of 7, 10, and the cosine of the angle between 10 and 7. Cosine of 30 degrees. Using a calculator, we find that x equals 5.26. In order to ascertain the value of angle alpha, we will make use of the sine law, which is a mathematical principle commonly employed in trigonometry. The sine of angle alpha is equal to the sine of angle gamma. This equality is valid because the values of the sine function for these angles are identical. In our case, opposite to alpha, we have 7. Dividing 7 by the sine of alpha, which I want to find out, equals L, which is 5.26 divided by the sine. 6 divided by sine, 6 divided by. The angle opposite it, the sine of 30. We'll use a calculator, making sure not to forget to calculate the sine as we know the result of the sine, and thus we'll find that alpha equals 41.6. 0.6 is generally summarized in the triangular shape that the triangle represents. Remember, sum of angles is 180 degrees. We have sine law discussing relationship between side and sine of angle opposite, and cosine law, a generalization of Pythagorean theorem, at our disposal.